Hey everyone! Welcome back to the channel. When you hear the name Paul Newman, you probably think of piercing blue eyes, Oscar-winning performances, and one of the most iconic actors in Hollywood history. But what many people don't realize is that behind the fame, the fortune, and the films, Paul Newman lived a second life. A life of roaring engines, tire smoke, and finish line victories. This is the story of how a Hollywood legend became a real racing champion, and the incredible cars that fueled his passion from humble Datsuns to million-dollar Ferraris. So buckle up, because this isn't just a story about cars. It's about drive, discipline, and a man who refused to be ordinary. The accidental racer Paul Newman didn't start racing because he wanted to. In 1968, he was cast in the film Winning, a movie about an ambitious race car driver chasing victory at the Indianapolis 500 to prepare for the role. He attended a racing school at Watkins Glen, taught by the legendary Bob Bondurant, but something unexpected happened. What started as research for a movie became an obsession. Newman later said, "Once I got a taste of racing, I couldn't get enough. It was the first thing that made complete sense to me outside of acting." After the movie wrapped, he didn't stop driving. He went deeper, and by the early 1970s, Paul Newman was showing up to real races under fake names just to avoid Hollywood attention. He wasn't there to be a celebrity, he was there to compete. From actor to athlete, unlike most Hollywood hobbies, this wasn't just a phase. Newman dedicated himself like a professional athlete. He trained relentlessly, studied aerodynamics, and even worked on his own cars. He started small, with Datsun 510s and 240G, modest, nimble machines that rewarded skill over horsepower. He entered amateur races across America, often arriving quietly in a pickup truck, towing his own car. And soon, the results spoke for themselves. He began winning, not in celebrity charity races, but real SCCA championships. By 1979, he had become one of the top drivers in his class, even winning the SCCA C-Production national title. The man who once played races on screen was now outrunning them in real life. The Newman effect. By the 1980s, Paul Newman wasn't just an actor who raced. He was a racer who happened to act. Hollywood insiders didn't understand it, but car enthusiasts adored him. He had no ego in the paddock. He tuned his own suspension, changed his own tires, and studied every lap. And his cars, they were just as iconic as he was. Let's start with one of his favorites, the 1971 Datsun 510. The car that launched his racing career. Lightweight, rear-wheel drive, and perfectly balanced, Newman used it to dominate SCCA events. Today, that very car is preserved by Nissan as a piece of racing history. Then there was the Datsun 280Z Turbo, his weapon of choice in the early 1980s. He drove it for the Bob Sharp racing team, finishing second overall at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1979 at the age of 54. Think about that. While most actors his age were retiring from film, Newman was taking podiums at Le Mans, the cars behind the legend. Paul Newman's garage was on filled with toys. It was filled with tools for competition. Here are a few standouts from his legendary collection. 1979 Porsche 935, the car that nearly took him to the top at Le Mans. It was raw, fast, and unforgiving. Newman handled it with surgical precision. Nissan 300ZX Turbo, his most famous car from the IMSA GT era. Under his Newman Sharp racing team, this car dominated American circuits in the late 80s, winning multiple championships. Ferrari 365 GTB for Daytona. A car he drove both on track and off, embodying the perfect mix of Italian soul and racing spirit. Volvo 960 V8 wagon, yes, you heard that right. Late in life, Paul commissioned a modest Volvo wagon with a Ford V8 engine. It looked like a family car, but could smoke a Corvette at a stoplight. These cars weren't trophies. They were extensions of his personality, quiet on the outside, wild underneath. The Newman Haas era in 1983. Paul Newman took his passion to the next level. He partnered with racing engineer Carl Haas to form the legendary Newman Haas racing team. Together, they built one of the most successful teams in American motorsports history. Under Newman's leadership, the team won 8 IndyCar championships with drivers like Mario Andretti, Mike Andretti, and Sebastian Bort. Newman didn't just own the team, he lived it. He attended races, strategized with drivers, and even personally reviewed performance data. He was as dedicated behind the pit wall as he was behind the wheel. Newman Haas became a powerhouse, proving that this Hollywood icon had not only conquered film, but motorsport itself. Racing into his 80s, most drivers hang up their helmets by their 40s. Not Paul Newman. He kept racing well into his 70s and 80s. At 70 years old, he became the oldest driver to win a professional race in the United States, taking victory at the 1995 24 Hours of Daytona in a Mustang. Even when his health began to decline, Newman never lost his connection to racing. In interviews, he said driving gave him peace, that behind the wheel, he could forget fame, forget the noise, and just be. In his own words, racing is the purest thing I know. When you're out there, there's no acting, no pretending. It's just you in the car. The legacy of a racer's soul. When Paul Newman passed away in 2008, the world remembered him as an actor, philanthropist, and humanitarian. But for those who knew him best, he was something more, a racer with the heart of a warrior. His passion inspired generations of drivers and actors alike, from Patrick Dempsey to Steve McQueen's modern-day fans. And his cars, they're still alive, still raced, still cherished, still carrying his spirit around every corner. Paul Newman proved that no matter how successful you become, it's never too late to find a new passion. He didn't just live 2 lives, he lived both of them fully. So next time you see his face on a movie poster, remember this. Behind those blue eyes was a man who didn't just chase fame, he chased speed. Thanks for watching. If you love this deep dive into Paul Newman's racing life, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more stories about legendary cars and the people who drove them. See you next time on the fast lane of history.